All right. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Wakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is We Moving On. And pretty much this title is something that Elder High Priest Yaquab used to say all the time. You know, if I'm mistaken, it was Elder High Priest Yaquab, talking about if these individuals can't get it, we moving on. Because at this point, you have Israelites that know that they're Israelites. They know what the doctrine is, you know, and we're not gonna, it's too much work to be done to waste time, going back and forth, with these individuals about the same thing over and over again. This is what vocab and them do. They keep bringing up the same questions. They keep bringing up the same arguments, and we're not going to keep going back and forth like that. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, we're moving on. There's plenty of work to be done. Remember, Yahushai said the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. So, this is what we do. And the bottom line is we out here to teach the elect, the ones that may be of the elect, and we just teach the word and the Lord seals. And when the scriptures speak about lay hands suddenly on no man, this is why you can't be too quick to give credit to someone, because they're a good speaker or a good reader or they're on fire. It's easy to be on fire when you're young. It's easy to be on fire when you don't have any ailments. It's easy to be on fire when you ain't lose really nothing, and you may have lost your woman or your children or your job or just different situations. Then let's say you still be on fire like you are, like you are. You don't have any ailments, nothing's messing with you. But when all that stuff comes upon you and you can still perform in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, then you can give an individual like that, you can give them some kind of credit. You have these young individuals coming up into this thing like Wi-Fi, the Naquan, I believe his name is. Pretty much he came into this thing as a young man. He came up to the camp. I remember, I didn't remember it was 2 times, but I remember him coming up there and giving us all kind of props and, all this, empty flattery, which we hate, And then what happened? He turns around and, uses that platform to advance. And then once they got the followers that they need, once they got the audience that they need, once they got, the platform or whatever the case may be need, then they talk shit about the men they learn from, And I'm not saying in all cases, I'm just saying, using that as a particular case, So the sentiment is this, that if it had not been for the One Westers teaching, none of you guys would have been teaching this word. If it had not been for the elders before us, we wouldn't have been teaching, you see? And we honor and reverence our elders, and respect them. These young that don't respect their elders, but that's all right because the Lord gonna do it eventually. So I just got a couple of precepts I want to bring out, and that's it. I mean, I'll probably just end up closing it after that. And I want to speak on another little incident that's going on now with this whole situation with this woman. What was her name? Shania, I believe it was, something like that. And the cop came in the house and she was getting some hot water or whatever it was, and he shot her, killed her in the house. And now Jake is in the up. And I was texting back and forth with a brother earlier, and he pretty much said, F Jake, Jake is full of shit. And I said, yeah, well, that's the scripture in the book of Genesis, the 49th chapter, which I'll get that real quick. Genesis 49 and verse 8 down, you have, this is a blessing that was put upon Judah by Jacob. So it says here, verse 9, main point, Judah is a lion's whelp, meaning a young lion. From the prey, my son. Who's the prey? Esau. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up, right? Because they focus more on killing each other, than looking at what the real problem is. At least back in the 60s and 70s, Jake, they still did their shit, their dirt to each other, but they knew they had a common enemy, Esau. Today, pretty much, Jake is an enemy to each other, more than the real enemy. And then the real enemy they let slide. But now it's coming to the point not letting them slide. You remember that incident that happened, I don't know, that was a couple of years ago at that boatyard. That Edomites was popping off and Jake just served them, You had Jake swimming, in the water to come up to get busy. And that's all that is the Lord stirring the pot up, because we're coming to the very end, and it's going to get very chaotic at the very end. 1 Thessalonians 4:9. I'm sorry, that's I was reading the paper. 49:9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion. See, and as an old lion. So pretty much, Jake got to the point where they acting like an old lion. They're not concerned anymore about the prey. They're, they lost direction. They lost their focus on who the real enemy is. It says, who shall rouse them up? And that's a precept that came to mind because a video was sent to me of that whole melee. Well, not really a melee, but it was like you had seemed like a sea of Jake. And I don't know, it could have been other nations in there, but it just seemed like the streets, I forgot what place that's in, but the streets people were just marching down the streets chanting. And I was like, God damn, it was like a sea of people, And what I thought about is who shall rouse them up? And you have to understand that we're at the tipping point of this thing. We're at the tipping point of the destruction of America. We're at the tipping point of the financial disasters. We're at the tipping point of the micro C-HIP, which is the MOTB being implemented. And we're at the tipping point of all hell breaking out, with, Jake, because the scriptures speak about, Jake, about to be roused up to, fight in this race war. Because you're going to have class wars, you're going to have race wars, you're going to have all different types of, things that are going to be happening, just on a level of people attacking each other. Never mind the famines and the financial collapse and just everything in general. That's like just one of the things that's about to explode. It's like a ticking time bomb, and the timer is almost out. You could there's a whole bunch of precepts you could read on the what you call it, the race wars in the scriptures. One main one is Micah, the 5th chapter, the 7th verse, and the 8th verse. Those are two main ones. Then another one is in Micah 4 and around 13. And Jake is going to get busy on Esau and the other nations. Isaiah 13 is another one, So I'm just going to shift gears now and go to the next point, which is we're moving on. We're not going to be sitting down and going, back and forth with these individuals, doing a 20-part series, Ezekiel 38 and Revelation 20 over and over again, which we've done. I think Revelation 20, besides Revelation 13, I think Revelation 20 is probably one of the most broken down chapters in GMS. We've gone over that over and over again. Pastor R himself has gone over that many times. He just recently did a video to either this morning, it was this morning, where it was about an hour, 7 minutes and some change, and he went through the whole breakdown, from the 8th verse all the way to the end, and you could clearly see that it's talking about these times in the destruction, because there's going to be a great shaking in the land of Israel, because that land is going to be destroyed by who? By the Russians, And Revelation 20 is talking about the same thing, destruction. And then after the destruction, you're going to have that destruction is going to be the judgment. And then after the judgment and the destruction and all, World War III and all this stuff that happens, then you're going to have the kingdom of heaven established, which is the 4th to the 6th verse, and the, pretty much the men of the Lord being crowned, you know, and Israel being reestablished. Yahweh and Yahushua are going to be there. Yahushua is going to be sitting on his throne with all glory and, man, just the magnificence and the glory and the majesty that, you know, that is going to be on that man. You know, when is going to slip, you know, the punches, so to speak, and then come against us one last time. One last time. Salakia. I know that was whack. So we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 14 and 38. And this is what the scriptures say. And this is how you can save yourself a headache. Scriptures say whether you, I can't think of the scripture offhand, how it's worded. It's in a proverb somewhere. You know, whether, you know, if you contend with a fool, whether you rage or whatever, you know, you pretty much, you're not going to get through to them. You know, if you go back and forth with an individual and they're set in their mind on what they believe and they're not going to sway from it, there's nothing that you could tell them or show them, you know, that's going to convince them. You know, here it is, we're going to have spiritual power. We're going to be perfect. You know, the reason why we went into captivity among all these different nations is because we were not perfect. We kept going off. But now we're going to be perfect. We're going to have spiritual power. We're going to have the Most High and Yahushua there, the angels. But then these individuals, the Gog is going to come and you know, give it one last hurrah. No, man. So 1 Corinthians 14:38. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. And that's how you can save yourself a whole lot of headaches. You know, you save yourself a whole lot of headaches, because at the end of the day, you know, there's nothing that you could tell these individuals that hasn't already been said. Titus chapter 3 and verse 10. It says, a man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject. You know, so if somebody's saying something that goes against the doctrine and you try to correct them once and they don't get it, and you try to correct them twice and they don't get it, what are you supposed to do? Reject them. You know, don't even waste your time. It says, knowing that he that is such is subverted, meaning overthrown, and sinneth, being condemned of himself. Yeah, because he's doing the wrestling that the Apostle Peter spoke about. You know, an individual like that is doing the wrestling with the scriptures that the Apostle Peter spoke about in our 2 16, where it says, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest. See, so they what? Wrestle, because they're unlearned and they're unstable. And the thing about, you know, being a novice in this thing is very dangerous when you learn so quick and you get all these accolades so quick and all this glory and all this glory and prestige, I guess you could call it, you know, or you know, recognition. That's very dangerous, because scriptures say knowledge puffeth up and you become proud. And it seems like every time we say that a you know, seems to be sincere, to be a demon, they turn around to be proud and pompous. And you see the look on their face, because the scriptures speak about a proud look. You can start seeing the look on their face, their countenance changing from that humility that they had, you know, or seem to have, to that total pompous look, you know. And we know, because we've mentioned this about different individuals from different camps. You know, he seemed to be the most level-headed. He seemed to be, you know, humble, blah, blah, blah. And what happened? They ended up being a bunch of demons, you know, proud, you know. So it says, which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest or wrestle, as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction. So they're wrestling the scriptures unto their own destruction, because they can't get past certain things. And well, the apostle, I'm sorry, not the apostle, or the apostle Peter, yeah, but King David said that, which is really Yahushua, let their table become a snare. And their table is this knowledge, you know. And that which should be for their welfare, let it become, a trap unto them. And that's what it's become. It's become a trap, you know? So it says, they rest, as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction. Now that we read Titus 3, this is the last precept I have. First Thessalonians 4:16, and I'm actually to the 16th to the 18th verse. And the reason why I want to read this is because once Yahushua comes back, we're ever going to be with him. You know, we're not gonna, have any nation come up against us ever again. The scriptures say that affliction shall not rise a second time. So 1 Thessalonians 4:16, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, that's Yahushua, with the voice of the archangel. This is what Ezra the prophet saw. And with the trump of the Most High and many of the other prophets. The trump of the Most High is the last trump, not Donald. Inside joke. And the dead in Yahushua shall rise first. Those are the ones that are in the graves. And I spoke about it earlier this morning. It says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds. So the ones that are the elect that are still alive on the earth when Yahushua comes back, they're going to be caught up into the clouds. But the ones that's going to go up first are the ones that die in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. It says, to meet the Lord in the air, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. So I don't understand what this whole concept of there's going to be, God is going to come back one last time. They're going to rule for, who knows, 3 days, 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks, I don't know. And then they're going to come up against Israel one last time, and that's it. Here it is. We got the Yahushua here. The kingdom is here. We got the victory. Yahushua is glorified and crowned. The scriptures say we don't see everything put under his feet yet. In the book of Hebrews, the 2nd chapter. Finally, we're going to get to see everything put under Yahushua's feet, right? And the dominion and everything. But then you're going to have one last shot of God coming up against us. That don't make no sense, man. It says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, and to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. And that's comforting, because the scripture in Ezekiel speaks about you make the heart of the, I don't forgot what scripture that was. You make the heart of those sad that I didn't make sad. That is Ezekiel, 13. Here it is. We waiting for this devil to go down, hastening for this devil to go down, only for him to go down, and then we have to worry about him coming back again. And that's why I mentioned that, if you have certain individuals that seem like they didn't get enough of the oppression, maybe they're not being oppressed. Maybe they ain't going through nothing. Maybe they had an easy life. Maybe they like Clarence, My man Clarence, he has 2 nice parents. Clarence's parents have a real nice marriage. I don't know. For somebody, the mind that thinks like that is a mind that is at ease. If you shape in the spirit, then demons constantly, whether it be with your woman or your children or just life in general or whatever, ailment, whatever, you're not going to be thinking like that. You're going to be thinking about, goddamn, when is this shit going to end? And that's why Yahushua said, he that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life shall gain it. And you have to really hate your life in this society to think like that. That's why in Ezekiel it says to put a mark upon those that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. That's the true mark of a man of the Lord or a woman of the Lord. They're gonna have that. They're gonna want the kingdom. Their only response every time, you need something, brother? Yeah, the kingdom. Can I get you something? Nah, brother, why not? Because you can't give me the kingdom right now. There you go. Ezekiel 13 and 22, because with lies you have made the heart of the righteous sad. Yeah, who I have not made sad, and strengthened the hands of the wicked, which are, wicked Israelites, that he should not return from his wicked way by promising him life. Yeah. You know, so I'm gonna leave it off there. You know, Lord's will. You know, you brothers have been edified. I just wanted to say a few words on that. But we're moving on. We're not gonna waste time going back and forth. We did that enough. You know, we did that going back years ago. You know, going back and forth. You know, and it to nothing. Because at the end of the day, no matter what we say, the person ain't gonna get it. You know, so the person as a heretic after the first and second admonition reject, knowing that such one is subverted of himself. You know. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom. And Tawada for tuning in. Tawada for the precepts, brothers. Really appreciate it.